All right, we're rolling. So, Mike Zhai, thank you so much for joining me. Mike's a great friend of mine, and I'm really happy to have him on here. Mike is a teacher of poetry at the University of Michigan. Am I saying that right, Mike?
Mhm.
Yeah, Mike is the co-author of Lipo Unkempt with Kidder Smith. And Mike has also done some study with a man who used to be known as Charles Billier of Dragon's Play, but who also published under the name Liu Ming, whose work can be found at dayuancircle.org. That's DAYUAN circle.org. And Mike is a poet, a man of many hats, with many languages to choose from. So Mike, how did I spiel on you? Speaking of your German.
Das ist sehr gut.
Excellent.
Ich habe es sehr gern.
Most excellent. Mike is on today to talk to us about Chinese astrology, is the name, at least it's known in the West. I don't know if there's another name for the art of Chinese astrology, and then we'll see how long we can go before we start to talk about poetry. We don't have to do it all this time because I am charging Mike to continue to write his, what will hopefully be a series of translations of music into poetry, in which case we'll pull him back on.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of music, I think like the name Chinese astrology, I mean, I think it's the closest thing we can come to it in English, because it's kind of like Western astrology, but it's not really astrology, because it's actually more like music, because it's based around just the study of time. Because astrology is about the stars, right? But Chinese astrology doesn't really study the stars. It's just patterns of time, like music, So I don't know what you can call it. It's like, I don't know,
what are the words for it what is the term in Chinese?
I don't know if there's a specific term. Well, there's like Tianwen, which Tianwen in modern Chinese means like astronomy. But I think in traditional China had some similar to astrology, but Tian means like sky. And Wen means like patterns or writings. So it's like, but yeah, Tian is also like the movement of time, sort of like the wind in the sky, sort of.
So we've transitioned into skywriting. So this is about as far as we were able to go before talking about poetry, which is the old joke that a stand-up comedian said, which was that the hardest job is a Chinese skywriter. But it seems like it was an art form.
Yeah, and it's like, like the see, like in traditional like Chinese culture, like the various arts are not clearly distinguished from each other. So like Tianwen is like the study of the sky, or the study of time. I guess it would translate as like astrology. And then there's like Dili, which is like the patterns of the earth, which is like, I guess, what we would call like feng shui, like the study of like places and or space. So one is like time and one is like space, but it's also one is called like heavenly writing, and the other is like earthly patterns. And those people usually study those like together. But I just know a little bit of astrology. I don't really know like feng shui that much.
I see.
Yeah.
And we're at a particular point in that now tonight.
Yeah. Do you see the moon tonight?
I haven't. I'll step out after this.
It's really pretty. It's like I think tomorrow is the full moon, or either today or tomorrow is the full moon. But it's pretty much full. And like it's kind of foggy out, so like it's one of those nights where like you see this like disc, right? But like the outline is not clear. So you just see this like kind of like circular radiance that just like kind of like dissolves outwards, like this, like white, like pale light that just goes out, and it's kind of like veiled and very kind of reticent, and yeah, it's a lot like the energy of the season, which is like beginning of spring, that kind of like subtlety and gentleness.
And that the resplendent moon of tonight is the groundhog of the Chinese calendar. Is that right? It's the start of spring. It's the start of spring.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's not necessarily always on the full moon, because the start of spring is it's based on like a solar system. So the Chinese calendar is both lunar and solar, and they're the moons, but then there are also the chi nodes, which are based on like the equinoxes and the solstices, which are solar. So those more or less always happen on the same day in our calendar, like around. So spring always starts around like February 3rd or February 4th. It's almost always one of those dates.
Okay.
So yeah.
And the full moon is tomorrow night, officially the 5th.
Yeah. So it just coincidentally happens to be the full moon also.
I see. And we just had entered the year of the rabbit, right?
Yeah.
And so what element is that this year?
Rabbit is wood element.
Okay. So and we're also
water rabbit year. So it's like water over wood. Yeah. It's a lot. It's kind of like a lot like the moon, because the rabbit is the lunar animal. The rabbit is tonight is not so clear, but if tomorrow night, if it's clear out, go look at the full moon, and then look at the shadows on the moon, and you'll see the outline of a rabbit.
Yeah, I've seen the rabbit. And there's a story of the rabbit with the moon. Yeah. Is that from today's holiday or no? That's a different holiday that celebrates the rabbit.
That's usually associated with the full moon in autumn, like the Mid-Autumn Festival.
Okay.
But the rabbit is there to keep the moon goddess company, because she gets lonely sometimes. So,
after she stole her husband's pills of immortality.
That's right.
Yeah. You got banished up there, right? Is that right?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, you could interpret the story in different ways. Like, she wanted to go up there because she didn't like him particularly, or there are many versions, I think.
Would you, if it's not too much of an overwhelming task, would you walk us just through the 12 signs?
Yeah. So I think it's easier to think of them in terms of the months or the hours rather than the years, because it's that way you kind of see their particular qualities, and also how they become each other in this like cycle. Yeah, because so like the rat hour is midnight, and the rat month is like December, around the time of the winter solstice. So both of those are like the darkest time, right? And I mean, rats kind of like darkness too. They run around in the dark, and like humans are always trying to get rid of them, right? But they can't, because the rats are just like indestructible. And so that's like the water element, whose color is black, and represents death, but it also represents kind of like the continuity of life across death.
Now, well, I know Liu Ming at one point says you don't even know if they're in your house. So they're sort of, I guess, could be present and not present, and maybe alive, and you don't know.
They're kind of like the lowest common denominator of being, sort of. It's like, because it's the continuity from one year to the next. Because literally the world ends every year. Actually, the world ends every day, and then the next day is a new world. So what carries from one world into the next is the water, and like in humans, it's the kidneys. Kidneys are water element. So and kidneys are associated with the reproductive system. So like, how do you live forever? I mean, one way is to have some kids, right? And you pass on your genes.
Rats.
Even though it's, yeah. So it's like so that's a water element. And then the ox is like around like January to February is the ox month, and the ox hour is like 2 a.m. like 1 to 3 a.m. is the ox hour. So that's the time when you're like dead asleep, like you're just like a corpse basically, right? And you're like, it's like deep sleep. And in the year too, like that, it's like dead of winter, like nothing's happening. It's just like complete like kind of stillness and immobility sort of, right? And the
And
ox is so it's kind of like the ox is kind of like unconscious in a way, because like they don't I mean that's why like Chinese farmers really love them, because like they're just like they move on this like kind of like pure like momentum that's not associated with any kind of thinking or planning. They just move in one way and they keep
yeah,
going
well,
very
I
regularly.
as you know, I dated an ox, and it's sort of like I show up in their life and I leave their life, and they're just slowly moving to whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
And they
I think
can kind of
nature.
like see you out of the side of their eye.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the well, it's like the rat. It's like that continuity um from one cycle to another cycle when like things have ended, but yet something continues.
So how does that
Like,
manifest in like the personality of a rat, the personality of an ox?
yeah, so I think the one thing like that people forget is that like because most people when they think of astrology they think of like human personalities.
Mm,
Like I'm a rat, I'm an ox. It's really fun. That part of it is really fun, right?
mm,
But people forget that like this is actually not the primary part
mm.
of Chinese astrology, anyways. Because the
I see.
reason you have that personality is because you were born during that year, right? So like everything born that year has that personality. Like coral in the ocean has that personality that
Mm,
appears that year, or like you know historical events of that year, and like everything shares that kind of energy.
yeah.
So yeah, but in terms of humans, yeah, like uh rat rat people, I mean, it's just like kind of like um they're just engaged with what's right in front of them, sort of. It's like that there's this immediacy, and they because the rat time, the like water element is like a dissolution of everything.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of dissolved down to like the smallest units, and
And
the
that's
rat
the
can
ability.
they can really work with that. So kind of like they take the old year apart, and then they
Mm,
like import it as like resources for the new year, sort of. Because rats
mm,
they're always hoarding, right? If you go to like a rat's nest, you'll find your socks from like that you were looking for like months or something. And yeah, um, so they kind of like they break everything down.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of like how, yeah, I guess that's associated with the rat personality
I
too.
see.
Yeah, whereas the ox kind of just like it's really cruising on the momentum of the past, you know, because like it's like it doesn't even like really need a mind. It's just like it's just momentum from behind it, just pushing it, and it's like this. It's unstoppable. It's kind of scary in a way.
Hmm.
And it's like
Yeah.
yeah, and then that continues. Um, and yeah, this is kind of the interesting thing. Like each sign is a radical departure from the last sign. Like it's
Mm,
like think about an ox and a rat. It's so different. And then a
mm,
tiger and an ox is completely different. Like ox
mm,
is so predictable and so regular, and the tiger is just like the opposite, sort of. They just completely out of nowhere, um, no reason for existing, just pure spontaneity, like the kind of the so it's kind of like the pure spontaneity of appearing. Like things appear for just no reason. And tiger doesn't need a reason. It's just like, I'm here, haha.
They also don't need a reason to cancel, which is why you dealt with me
Yeah,
saying it's on and it's off 4 times today.
yeah, because it's well, it's wood element, right? Wood comes out of water. Like water is kind of like nothingness, sort of, and wood is like the beginning of something appearing, but it's not quite there yet. It's like it's not really real. It's almost just like a dream, so it's like it's there and it's not there. So the tiger represents that. It's like there's a kind of like a bravery, like think about like the plants coming out from underground. They're just like they're fearless, they just like, because like at the beginning of spring, you still get frosts and you still get like um snow and ice, and sometimes they come out and like the next day there's a big snow and they all die.
Mhm.
But they don't care, they just keep coming out, and that's like the tiger energy. It's just like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and Ming has talked about in one of the tiger years on the Dalian circle that it's like a daring. It's like an I dare
Yeah,
ya.
yeah, yeah. And like, and the daring is like, it's like it's kind of groundless in a way, because like
And reckless.
there's no, yeah, it's reckless, because like there's no reason for that kind of confidence, but
Yeah.
you just have it anyway. You're like, ah. But if you think about tiger, I mean, everybody thinks that like it's very strong animal, but it's actually quite fragile. Wood is very fragile, because like tigers, like you never see a tiger like running for like an hour, right? Like all they
Mhm.
have is just like one big burst of energy, and
Mm.
like they're like kind of like cats. If you have like a cat, like most of the time it's just really lazy and like sitting around and like asking the sun, and what it's doing is like storing up energy, right?
Yeah.
Stores up energy just for that one big pounce when it's gonna like catch its prey or something, right? And then after that, it's just like done for like the next few days.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that's also a wood element. It's like very like kind of tenuous. Yeah.
Mm. So what time of day is that?
Tiger is 3 to 5 a.m.
Okay.
It's the time when dreams first appear, in like
Mm.
you're coming out of deep sleep, and the dreams appear. And dreams appear out of nowhere. They're groundless, right? They're just, and they have no logic. They just like just random stuff from the unconscious or who knows where, right?
It's an
So that's,
interesting it's an interesting idea, this sort of comparison of plant life, and I'm assuming that would include things like flowers and fruits
yeah,
as sort of as dreams, or an analogy between
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. Du Fu has a poem called which he wrote in the depths of winter, and the first line of the poem is that like flowers and leaves are only heaven's dream or something like that. Because in the winter you think about like plants, and you don't see any, so it just seems like an illusion, right? That like summer seems like an illusion. So
And I forgot to mention, Mike, you have some writing on Du Fu that's
I
published. Yeah,
translated some.
I
Yeah,
know
I
you have
translated.
plenty translations of him, and some is currently published. Yeah.
I have like one poem that's published.
And then one piece that breaks down how to write his poetry, etc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But like so the tiger and the rabbit are the wood animals,
Mm.
and they represent so each element has like a yin and yang aspect, right? So tiger is the yang aspect of wood, and rabbit is the yin aspect of wood, which is and again, like what a contrast, going from tiger to rabbit,
Mm.
like the king of all predators to like the one that everybody's trying to kill, and eat.
Mm.
It's like the predator prey, right? And the
Mm.
rabbit has that like extreme vulnerability, um, but extreme sensitivity also,
Yeah.
yeah, which is the other side. And wood is like that. Wood is just like so open, it's kind of scary. It's just like open to everything, and it can't really distinguish things because it's very childlike. It's just like a child, like like
Mm.
can't tell good people from bad people. It's just like
Mm.
it's just everything just comes in. So rabbit is like that open, really open aspect of wood, because the like those ears,
Mhm.
right? They're just like antenna. They just like take in so much information, and they're kind of like yeah, they get overwhelmed really easily because they're
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
in so
I have a
Yeah.
question about that because I think of rabbits as being very sensitive and kind of like like phenomena that other people might miss is really loud for them. 'Cause-
Yeah.
And so I would think, does that make them? I would assume that made them better judges of character, or does it tend to be a hyperfixation that help keeps them from telling good from bad in terms of interacting with others, or could it go either way?
I think when you're so open, you learn to like protect yourself because like
Mm.
you're vulnerable, right? So they really like the home is really important to them, like a nest and some kind of protection. Yeah. And then once they have that security, then they're very then they really come alive and they can just like tell you like amazing things that you never would have imagined.
So very opposite of tiger like that too.
Opposite.
Opposite from King of the Jungle. I guess it's
Yeah.
lion, but
Well, tiger, see, like it's not exactly like that either because like the tiger has like black and white stripes, so the tiger has a dual nature also because when it's out, it's like wow, it's like the
yeah.
king. But then it spends a lot of time in also. So in that way, there's continuity between the animals too, because in that way they're similar because they both need a lot of time like hiding. The tiger like has a side that's like hidden from everybody, where it's just like in its cave and just kind of like it's completely private.
Yeah, Ming talks about I can conquer the world, just not right now.
Yeah,
It's sort of the tiger attitude.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But wood has that wood. The essence of wood is vulnerability. So even the tiger,
Mm.
at the very core of the tiger is extremely vulnerable. Yeah. So, um, and yeah, like Ming, the joke that Ming used to say about rabbits is like, if you go up to one and you ask them what time it is, they'll be like, "It's all right, I understand."
What does that mean?
They're just like they're so ahead of you, like they know why you really, what
Mm.
you really, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And my mom was a rabbit, and I was, I got to observe her pretty well, and she had this quality where like if I'm talking to her, it always seems like she's not listening to me, right? Like or like if somebody else is talking to her, she always looks kind of like a little bit distracted, like she's like okay you're telling her whatever you're telling her,
Yeah.
but it's almost like she's listening to what you're really saying rather
Yeah.
than like your words are just BS, and then it's like but like what you really like she's tuning into like the feelings or like like
Yeah.
that's what rabbits do. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're like they're really like yeah, everything is like so like subtle. They like just like they're not direct at all. Like they I think like Ming gave this one talk. I wish I could find a recording of it, but I heard it's like one of his most popular talks, which is the 12 animals as seen by the 12 animals. So he talks about like each of the animals, right?
Mm.
And like how they see all the other ones, sort of. Well, including themselves, right?
Yeah.
And I heard that was like the funniest talk he ever gave, but I don't know if there's a recording of it. But I think like from the rabbit's point of view, like all the other animals are just kind of like really crass, They're just like I don't know, kind of really yeah.
So is that associated with the morning?
Rabbit is like the time right before dawn,
Yeah.
like 5 to 7 a.m. and um, I don't know, it's a very like delicate time,
Yeah. It's that kind of like I haven't had my coffee yet.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very I don't know. It's kind of a magical time in some ways. Just there's a lot of very delicate feelings that you forget in the rest of the day, maybe.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, and then when you get to like sunrise, then it's the dragon. And dragon is the transition between wood and fire.
Hmm.
So that's like the end of spring going into summer. That's when really like spring, like really everything blossoms, just like, you know, all the trees blossom and it's like all the colors return to the world and just like
Hmm.
incredible. It's you know, especially in Michigan, you see this, right? It's just surreal, like, because you haven't had, it's such a long wait, right? You wait and wait till like February, March, April, and then finally, like, boom, like everything just explodes, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like dragon. It's just like everything all at once. And that's the earth element. Yeah. So, or like, well, there are four animals that are earth element, and they all represent like a different aspect of the earth element. Like, like the ox is the earth element as that kind of like bear kind of like perseverance through in the dead of winter and persistence, right? Continuity. And the dragon is that earth element that like just like says yes to everything. Just like everything goes, anything goes. Just like yes, everything. Let it come. Let it all come. Let it all come. You know. And it seems like almost like it's almost too much. You know. And so that it's like, and it's the only animal that's supernatural, right? Because it's there's like it shouldn't exist. It's impossible, you know. It's like an impossible animal. It's got the body of a snake and fish scales and bird claws and the head of a horse and deer horns and tiger teeth.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like this couldn't possibly exist. And that's the point of it. It's just like the life, kind of like, you know, in its diversity, like, you know, kind of coming out in this like surreal kind of show of display of appearance. And and then you get into the two fire animals, which is like the snake and the horse. Yeah. And so once again, it's like the yin and yang of fire. Yeah. So the snake is the fire that kind of like burns through the world, sort of. You know, it's like the sense of the world as an illusion. So it's associated with spirituality and transcendence. Yeah, like so they're like dragon and snake are both kind of like supernatural animals.
Does snake have the connotation of cunning that it has in the West?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, because the snake just has a sense that like everything's an illusion, you know. So like cunning and seduction, you know. And
so the wisdom can go either way.
Yeah, but I mean, like yeah, and there's something like the seductive quality of the snake is associated with that intuition of emptiness and illusion, you know. That it's like it's not operating in the ordinary sense that everybody else is. So there's this like magnetizing quality of like emptiness, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like fascinating and like deadly at the same time, you know.
So like the fire.
Yeah. So that's the yin aspect of fire, and the horse is like the opposite, because horse is associated with like production, just like manifesting, and like, you know, it's like I mean, wood is kind of like still like a dream, right? Like dreams and hopes, and then fire is like when what actually creates things, you know, what creates seemingly material reality.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, so the horse is like a factory furnace, you know, just like chugging out stuff like one after the other, it's just making stuff, rebuilding stuff. And it's now we've come to the opposite of the rat, because the rat is the water that breaks down everything.
Oh, sorry, what time of day was
horse is noon.
Okay.
Yeah, dragon is like dragon and snake are like the morning. So like dragon is 7 to 9, like sunrise time. And then snake is 9 to 11, and then horse is 11 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so then it kind of gets into like from there on, it starts getting from the the generation of the world to kind of the refinement and then the resolution of the world that's forming. Yeah. So remember that this is like part of the cycle of the day or the year.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like the horse month is around the summer solstice. That's like the brightest time of the year, right?
Okay.
And then it's kind of like the end of summer, and it starts to transition towards autumn.
Mm.
So the next one is the goat. And so between two of the other elements, like earth always comes up as the transition. Yeah. So like between water and wood, the ox was the earth element. Between wood and fire, the dragon is earth, right? And then between fire and metal, goat is So it's like, okay, we've created this world. Now what do we do with it? Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's actually like there's formed kind of a structure sort of.
And so the horse is kind of the segue into that, because the horses are very like, they're less caught up in their own thoughts and more actional. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all about action, because you look at a horse and it's just like pure muscle, right? Head to toe. And unlike the tiger, which is like, just has a one big burst of energy, horse can keep going. Like horses were like the main means of transportation in ancient times. They could gallop all the way across China. They have to, right? And so horse actually like kind of like creates the world in a way. And then the goat, starting from the goat, it's like a process of like refinement. And so like now that we have the world, like what should we do with it, And the goat is like kind of like the end of summer, that kind of like time of like abundance. Yeah. And the goat represents that aspect of earth that's like caring. Yeah. And it's a herd animal. So it has like a very, very social sensibility. Yeah. So
if I remember correctly, when Liu Ming talks about the creation of the universe, and this is, you can find on YouTube and through the Jiaowen's Da Yuan circle, it's called 12 Chinese zodiac animals generate a universe. But that's where the goat says, you know what, let's make it beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like that natural sense of like empathy and caring that we have for other people, that like, like I would like to be well nourished and have a nice place to live, and like be comfortable and happy where I am. So therefore I wish the same for everyone else, sort of. So it's that just like very broad social sensibility, sort of, and focus on others, and all the kind of like exalted moral values that come out of that, like justice, equality, fairness, equal distribution of resources. So the goat is like that. And so from there, then it goes into like the metal element, because the goat is like that sense of like beginning, sense of like refinement. And then the monkey and rooster are the two metal animals. So metal is like, again, further like making use of what's already there. It's the opposite of wood, right? Because wood is like everything's new and fresh, and metal, like everything's like familiar, and you can move things around, rearrange them so then like they're the best form. And so monkey is the yang metal, or like the fluid metal. It's just constantly playing with stuff, right? Like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this? Oh, what if we put this here? What if this here? Okay, just like messing with things, you know. So it's very creative and playful.
Yeah.
And the rooster is the yin metal, which is like single pointed, focused, and the sense of like perfection, you know. Perfection and also expression, yeah, because the rooster like announces the dusk and dawn, and this is, you know, in the daily cycle, it's now getting into like the evening. So
The rooster is very precise, is that right?
Yeah,
Which is
precise
the kind of element.
Precise and eloquent also,
Mm.
like pithy, you know, like you can put things into words, and it just like it hits the bullseye. It's just like exactly right, you know.
Mm.
They can just like tell you like the essence of whatever situation, you know. It's that kind of like piercing kind of like, yeah, metal.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the rooster, and also the metal is a sense of like what's most precious, you know, because it's the next element from earth. Earth kind of like contains everything,
Mm.
and earth refines into metal. Metal also is like represents like jewels, like gems.
Mm.
So yeah, towards the end of the year, it's like you kind of like, you know, you're distilling everything down, you know, to like it's kind of like it's metal is also cutting, right? So it's like cutting away what's like inessential
Mm.
and refining things down to like the most essential, right?
I was just reading what is it? The Forge and the Crucible by Mircea Eliade. There's a chapter, it's a book on alchemy, but there's a chapter on Chinese alchemy. And there's an idea within the book of the earth generating the metal.
Yeah,
It's
metal actually,
almost like a living thing.
yeah, metal is the element of alchemy in Chinese culture.
Mm.
Like the Taoist alchemy, the like the elixir of immortality.
Yeah.
It's called the Jindan, or I guess it's been translated as like golden elixir, but it's the word for gold also means metal in general, because gold is the king of all metals, right? So you could say it's like the metal elixir. So it's the same idea, like a spiritual sense, like
I see.
getting to like the essence of things, you know. Yeah.
So the Philosopher's Stone and the elixir of immortality are linked.
The Philosopher's Stone?
Yeah. And the elixir of immortality.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know too much about the Philosopher's Stone.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that's sort of an idea in this book, is that the process of alchemy, the process of the torture and change of metal being a metaphorical projection of the process of the inner alchemies, or the inner process.
yeah, because I think in Western astrology, I mean, in Western alchemy, they use a lot of metals also, right? Minerals and stuff like that. So yeah, so there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as you get to the end of the day, or like the end of the year, you know, Earth again appears in the transition between metal and water, and that's the dog. Yeah. And the dog has to do with that sense of protection, right? So like Earth as like a wall of Earth. Yeah. So like as winter approaches, you withdraw into the home. Yeah.
And I think of the dog as, sorry.
Yeah, the dog is also loyalty, right? So like it follows from the rooster, because the rooster is like the distillation of what is most valuable. And the dog kind of like is the putting that into action, sort of like, yeah, like the kind of like the yeah, the kind of like the protecting of that which is most valuable. So
And so important to that is important to that the distinguishing, because the dog says, I'll bark at you, I don't know you yet. Oh, you're okay, I know
yeah.
you.
except the dog doesn't. It's not an intellectual thing for the dog. Like the rooster, the metal element is also the mental element. Yeah, so it's like associated with the intellect. So
Yeah.
monkeys and roosters are like the intellectual animals. But the dog, it's like it's already got its, like the rooster finds its value, right? It analyzes and it finds what is most valuable. Dog already knows what's most valuable. It's an emotional thing. So it's the the emotion of like dedication, commitment, loyalty. So it's earth out. See, like it's kind of interesting because the four earth animals are like opposites of each other. Also, even though they're both earth elements, so the dog is the opposite of the dragon, because the dragon is the springtime earth. That's just like everything's good, it's all good, like more. And dog is just like that closing down kind of quality, of just like one thing, and that's I'm just gonna stick with this one thing. But this one thing is my everything, like my master, my brothers, my crew, my clan, my community.
So, okay, so that's pretty much overview of the cycle.
Yeah.
What does it mean that we're in a rabbit year?
The rabbit year?
Yeah, does that hold some sort of relevance?
I mean, it takes on the qualities of the animal, like I think last year is like tiger years are usually considered like very turbulent. Yeah, it's that kind of like that back and forth quality of the tiger. Kind of a very, very raw quality also, which is wood. Wood is very raw, and that kind of rawness continues into this year, but it's kind of it quiets down sort of, and it's like a gentleness, and so I think it's like kind of a probably a good year to like absorb and process what happened last year, because it's not, and it's also like the yin and yang, like the tiger is the yang, right, and the rabbit is yin, more yin. It's not as like outward, it's like all the drama and so forth, everything kind of like goes inward. Oh, it's kind of interesting because like rabbit and rooster are opposites, because one is wood and one is metal, but rabbit is also associated with alchemy, because like some of the depictions of the rabbit on the moon, the rabbit is like standing upright, and it's got a mortar and a pestle in front of it, and it's like pounding the mortar and pestle, because it's like the mixing the elixir of immortality.
Yeah, and the rabbit was a gift given to the goddess after she had stolen the pills of immortality.
Yeah, so yeah.
Now, why is that? What quality of the rabbit is that?
I guess it's just that intuitive quality, not just that like unreasonable openness. I mean, in a way, like the rabbit and tiger are the same, because they're both very brave. Rabbit is really, really brave. Yeah, because like like when you're that small, like even to go outside of your home is like an act of extraordinary bravery.
Yeah.
And to be so open to everything, and to like let so much flow through you. It's really like it's very daring in that way.
Yeah, and just to have those ears is daring, because you're willing to hear everything at such a volume.
Yeah.
Ming talks about something in terms of feng shui that I wonder what you think about in terms of astrology, which is, he talks about in one of the 2-minute or whatever YouTube videos, where he says that astrology in the West or I'm sorry, feng shui these days is pathological, in that it's looking for what is wrong. And that another way of doing it would be looking for what is working, maybe what's elegant or beautiful. It reminds me of when I asked you what your favorite season is because of your great passion for seasons, and you said all of them.
Well, it's whatever one that we're in right now.
That
Because
is what you said. Yeah.
they keep like, you know, seducing me, because like I think it's spring, but then summer comes and like, oh my God, summer is so much better than spring.
Yeah.
And then autumn comes and like, oh, autumn's the best, you know.
So I guess it's not about not distinguishing these things. But is about it doesn't seem like it's about not distinguishing them, but finding ways in which they are workable, an alternative to the, oh, you're a whatever, I can't talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I like this stuff is because I like poetry, you know, and it's like it's really like a kind of living poetry. It's not just like poetry that you read, you know, and just appreciate for a moment, but you're like, it's like you're within the poetry rather than the poetry is within you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because this way of seeing like time, it's just, I don't know, it's so beautiful. Like I like every time I read about this, like I get teary-eyed kind of, because it's just like,
Well,
yeah.
Because what? Go on.
I don't know, it's just a really like sublime understanding of like the music of time. Like we're not, you know, like we're part of this like gigantic symphony with a million instruments that plays on forever, you know, and on repeat forever. But that never gets old, because there's so much like variation and you know, variety within it. And so yeah, I think it's really like just a very sublime way of looking at the world. Sublime and down to earth at the same time, you know, because it's like you know, peasants like live in this too, you know.
You wouldn't happen to have your Beethoven poem on hand, would you?
I think I have it on my laptop.
It might be a great way to read us out if you want to talk about the symphony of the universe.
Oh, the Beethoven poem. Okay, I don't know if it has anything to do with Chinese astrology, but
or you could read us the Ming process of room naming.
let me see. Oh, I can read the Beethoven poem. Actually, I think I can explain it, how it has to do with Chinese astrology.
Great. Mike has been talking about writing about music for quite some time. And I wish I was a better support to him in that process, because I always think, as Zappa said, writing about music is like dancing about, we're talking about music is like dancing about architecture. But Mike, I think in this new poetry he's working on, is finding a way to dance about architecture. I'm encouraging him to do this.
You know, the cool thing about Chinese astrology is that it's not just Chinese, right? Because it's like, it's really like, I think it's really universal, you know. Like the funny thing about Ming is that like I think my biggest takeaway from studying with Ming has been my appreciation of music, which was not his. He never really talked about it in any of his classes either, you know. But that's kind of like the subtlety of this system, because it's just a way of like tuning in to the movement of time and the feeling of time around you, you know, and that applies to anything. So like I've always really liked, you know, Western classical music, but after studying with Ming, I listened to it in a completely different way, you know. And I think about it in terms of the Chinese kind of system of like cosmology and the movement of the five elements, and the kind of like so yeah, okay, I can read the poem. So this is based on Beethoven's last piano sonata, which I think is it's kind of it's a very mystical work of music, and the two movements kind of like represent two views of human life, and the first one is like the kind of the life of like struggle and tragedy kind of, and the second movement looks at it from like the viewpoint of like transcendence and liberation. So I tried to put that into the poem, which I think of as like a translation of this piece.
And I'll give my context, which is that Mike sent me this poem with no context, and I Googled like a madman because I so desperately wanted to know who the author was. And it turned out Mike's answer was in French, but I believe what he was saying was that it was him.
Okay, so this is called Beethoven Opus 111, played by Arthur Schnabel. At the end of it all, you were just a kid, standing on a sandhill that wasn't even a mountain, shaking your shovel at the world, throwing sand everywhere. So many selves at cross purposes, flying and falling over each other in a heap. And overhead, the stars wait patiently for everything to come to an end. And now, somehow, it's all over. Yet you are still here, untethered in boundless night, breathing so slowly, the whole universe expires before the next breath. Then everything comes back again, one thing at a time, but this time in the order of perfect beauty. Like martyred saints who discover they are the pattern on a rose window, you begin pacing the void backwards through what you thought was your life, now radiant in perfect freedom, perfect order and beauty. Your steps redoubling, skipping through pools and puddles of light, swirling in circles within circles, dancing. Even the atoms of your foot dance faster and faster, flickering in the millions, feverish, fading, filling every inch of ever more spacious space. And once again, you hover above the vista of past lives, the life of terror, the life of utter beauty, now equal as lived by you and everything that loves and sorrows across the flood of eons, giving perfect thanks. And all this is nothing but ordinary tonight as you sit on the edge of your bed, putting on your shoes.
Oh my God, the ending is so dope. Okay, Mike. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Cool. Well, I hope to do it again in as we stare out on the vista of our past lives, putting on our shoes.
Thank you. Okay.
Take care, buddy.
Okay.